Hello, world. It's another Melissa's Musings with Melissa Steele, real estate agent of San Diego and the nation. Little side note as you guys join in, I don't know if you know this, but John and I can help you in purchasing, selling, investing in real estate regardless of your location, whether that be here in San Diego or New Jersey. So I'm excited to help you. But as you guys trickle on in, we're going to be talking about something really interesting today. Let's see, I'm glowing a bit, so let's try and better our lighting a bit. Perfection. So today's musing is an interesting one because recently, somewhat recently, in the last year or so, I truly realized, and it hit me across the face like a giant sack of bricks, that I didn't realize or know who my dad was married to. So I'll run you through the scenario. I'll tell you the story. We'll get going with Melissa's Musings. And as you guys join in, thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for watching. If you're watching on the replay, thank you. Love you guys. So anyways, how do you get to the point of life where you quite literally don't realize who your parent is married to? Well, that's what I'm about to fill you in on. So those of you who maybe are frequent viewers of my musings maybe saw my most painful memory musing just last week. But what that brought up for me and what that taught me, you guys can watch the video and learn, but really along those lines and in that storyline is where this musing comes into play. So right before my 16th birthday, my dad, just to give you guys the short, too long didn't read version of that musing, my dad left my family for another family. At the time, didn't realize, that his new relationship included new children and a whole new life. But what I got to learn over time is what that looked like. And the interesting thing is years passed, right? So this is before my 16th birthday. Now I'm 29, a grown-ass adult. And fast forward about 10 years to last Christmas. And we're hanging out at my dad's house and we're shooting some pool at his pool table. And I look over on his mantle and I see a picture of him and a beautiful blonde woman. And I was like, who's that? It's literally the question that popped into my head. And before I was able to ask, it dawned on me who that was. It's who he's married to. It's his now wife. The person I've been so freaking resistant on even acknowledging their existence because he left my family for hers, didn't even register. Did not even acknowledge that this human being existed on this planet. Yeah, my dad got married, I wasn't there. Yeah, that's nice. He's been dating her for 10 years, whatever. Doesn't affect me. I'm in my own dream world. Oh, see the picture on the mantle. Who's that? His wife, the person he's married to. Disconnected, right? Just a little bit. And first of all, a lot of emotions came up for me. I actually excused myself from playing pool, ran to the bathroom, and had myself a nice little cry real quick because I was like, holy shit, experiencing a variety of emotions where all of this started crashing down on me because I all of a sudden had a lot of awareness going through a program like Ascension Leadership Academy, have a lot of awareness around me, have a lot of recognition as to where I've fallen short, and here I see a woman on the mantle who I don't even recognize, and it's literally the woman that my dad is married to because I've been so freaking resistant to have anything to do with him and his life for the past 10 years. Wow. I don't know about you guys, but it was like, and I had to cry it out in the bathroom. What it brought up for me was a lot. I learned so many powerful lessons from seeing her face on that mantle and having no idea who the fuck I was looking at. It was incredibly difficult for me to process, difficult for me to understand how disconnected I'd been, really tough to swallow the fact that for so long I'd had so much resistance against my dad and how little he was involved in my life and how little he knew about what was going on in my life. And here I was, not even having the knowledge or the wherewithal or the connection with him to realize who the frick he was married to. And all this is coming at me as I'm trying to figure out what I'm feeling. And needless to say, I left his house feeling like part of me was really empty that day. And what happened was, on the way home, I lost it. I was with my brother, my sister, and John, my husband, for those of you who know me, 0. And I started talking with them about how it impacted me. I said, wow, guys, I realized that I saw her picture on the mantle, and aside from never acknowledging the fact that she existed, I was just feeling so lost and so disconnected. And what I was able to really align with my brother and sister were that they had felt the same at times of their life, that my brother, being the only one who ever had a relationship with him because he was the only one young enough to be court-ordered to see her and see my dad, my sister and I had opted to not see my dad at the time, he had had a relationship with her. And what was so interesting was hearing his perspective on her, because up until that point, I'd literally never been open to hearing what she was like, who she was to my brother, what she was as a human being, what she brought to the table, why my dad even liked her. And it was such a powerful realization to me that that's how disconnected I was. And for so long, I'd held this ridiculous resentment towards my dad that he doesn't care about me. He's not involved in my life. He's not, you know, all of these things that he was lacking. And here I was with the biggest lack of all, not even realizing or acknowledging who he was married to, what she even looked like. I'd literally never even asked to see a picture. And so from that moment on, as I poured out my heart to my brother and sister and my husband, and as I cried out all of my feelings, I made the conscious decision that I was going to meet her. Oh, yay. And why this was powerful was because for so long I had, and this is still difficult for me because I'm still working on it. I'm still working on creating a relationship. But for so long, I was so angry and resentful at my dad and this woman because for some reason my self-worthiness conversation and my family's self-worthiness conversation told me that we weren't good enough for him. He chose a different family. And while that was so difficult for me to process, I didn't process it. That's really the long story short here. I didn't process it. Instead of processing it, I shoved all that shit deep inside. I basically put on a brave front for my brother, sister, and mom. I was unstoppable Melissa. I was the one who was proud of not crying. I didn't give a shit who he was in relationship with or who he left us with. We were fine in our space. I was going to take care of the family. I was unstoppable Melissa. I was good. And I was perfectly fine cutting out my dad, cutting out everything that had to do with his new life, cutting out every single aspect that had to do with him. And for a solid 1.5 years, I didn't see my dad. The first time I saw my dad was the following Christmas. And I was okay with that at the time. I had so much pain in here that I didn't want to see him. I was done. You know what, Dad? You didn't want me. I don't want you either. That was absolutely my mindset, absolutely the way I approached it. When he called, I didn't answer. And so that's how I operated for a solid 10 years. Wow. What an important realization that came crashing down on me as I saw her picture on the mantle. And so what it allowed me to do in that moment was, one, acknowledge that she existed, so I got to put a name to it. That is Beth. That's who my dad is married to. Interesting. I got to process that and absorb that and cry that out. I got to absorb and process the fact that, yes, for 10 years, my dad has been in a relationship with her, is now married to her, and has two, she had 2 kids before their relationship, so has, a family and 2 kids with her. They're not their together children, but, he functions as pseudo-father to these children that I've never met, never put a name on it, didn't even acknowledge existed. And so what it allowed me to do is, by acknowledging her existence, by acknowledging the fact that I had fallen short, I was able to step into my responsibility of it. And what I asked for was something that I never thought I would ever do. I asked my dad to meet her. And so the last time that I was home, it was one of the most difficult things I've ever had to do, because I put a face to the name that hurt me. I put a person and a human being, I acknowledged that she existed. And so what we did was we planned a dinner with my dad and her and my sister and brother and John, and we all got together and we got an opportunity to meet in person. And let me tell you, it was not dreamy. It was not like a, oh yay, we're one big happy family now. All is perfect. No, it was one of the most difficult things I've ever done. Clearly still an emotional topic. What happened was we went to my dad's house for lunch. We walked in, I saw her, and because of just seeing her and acknowledging the fact that she existed brought up so much for me, I immediately ran to the bathroom and I did this. I cried. I was like, oh my God, this is so much. I'm having a panic attack. And, you know, I don't think my dad watches my musings, but sorry, Dad, if this causes offense. My dad did not handle it well. None of us handled it well, because how do you handle something like that? You don't. You just like try and navigate through it, and you're like, this is ridiculously awkward and stressful and confusing, and we're just gonna make the best of it. So what we did was we got shuffled in, we said hello, and then it was like, dinner's already on the table, let's sit down and eat. And so as I was in the bathroom, like, oh my goodness, like having a panic attack, I was wiping the tears from my face. I was like, okay, I gotta get to the dinner table. Like, that's not weird or awkward. And well, I sat at the dinner table after cleaning myself up, and I'll tell you, you know, like how it went, basically. It was very surface level. It was not addressing the elephant in the room of the fact that this was the woman that my dad left our family for 10 years prior. It was not anything that I expected. And thankfully, my expectations were about this big. Because I really didn't want any disappointment after the fact. I just really, truly wanted no expectations going into it because I didn't know what to expect. I had absolutely no idea what I'd be feeling, what would come up for me, any of those things. So I had this much expectation, like literally like this much. So if you are in the same boat and taking on a lot, mentally, emotionally, give yourself about this much expectation so you don't lead yourself to disappointment. So thankfully I went in with about this much expectation. And after lunch, when we left, I was feeling really unresolved because, like I said, conversation was extremely surface level. It was like, how's work, Melissa and John? Great. Beth, how's work with you? Like, literally never even seen this woman, and this is our dinner conversation. Granted, I understand it's because these conversations are incredibly difficult and uncomfortable to have, but that's how dinner went. Great way to break the ice, great initial contact to acknowledge that my dad is married to a human being named Beth. Great for all of those things, but as we were leaving, it felt really unresolved. And the reason it felt unresolved for me is because we didn't address the fact that, you know, like, any of that past had happened. We were acting as though we were just simply meeting Dad's new wife, and there was no history between us at all. So what it allowed me to do was have a really open and honest conversation with my dad about it after dinner. So thank you, Dad, for creating the time and for creating the space where we could, in a really comfortable setting, meet and acknowledge the fact that Beth exists. But I would really love to, in the future, create a different and additional meeting where we get to address some of the history involved and the fact that there is a history there, and whether or not there is an apology there from her or an acknowledgement from her. I don't need any of that, but I would love to at least acknowledge that there is a past that we're, you know, coming from and are now sitting in the present time because of. And not only was it one of the most intimate and connected conversations that I've ever had with my dad, which is a huge progress point, it was amazing that by announcing and declaring the things that I needed, he was incredibly accommodating. And by creating the space to at least acknowledge Beth, recently I got a letter in the mail from her, and the letter was incredibly sweet. It acknowledged her broken agreements. It acknowledged the fact that she was in full awareness that my dad was in a relationship and had a family when they started their affair. It acknowledges a lot, and it also apologizes. And it meant so much. And it created a platform and a basis for future communication. And for that, I am so grateful. And so, while the realization, as I was playing pool with my dad, of seeing her photo on the mantle and being like, who the fuck is that? And then realizing it's the person that he's married to coming full circle and allowing myself to acknowledge the fact that she existed, accept the fact that this is my life, accept the fact that my dad is married to her, all of these things, it has been incredibly freeing, incredibly releasing. Because what I realized was, for the amount of time that my dad and Beth held my resentment, that literally any time their name was mentioned, I felt ill will towards them. I felt anger, I felt resentment, I felt less than worthy. I felt so many things. They were holding my power for so long. Literally every time I was giving them my energy, I was giving away my power. And the fact that when I stepped into my power and declared what it was that I needed to meet her and put a face to the name, to have future communication, to acknowledge the history there, to maybe even meet her kids in the future, when I started declaring all the things that I needed and the commitments I was requesting of my dad, it was amazing being able to take that power back and to powerfully own the uncomfortable conversations that I got to have with my mom about why I wanted to meet her, because I understand and I acknowledge that by meeting this woman, it in turn hurt my mom, because my mom is still in the denial stage and, you know, lack of acknowledgement stage, and she gets to be in that space for as long as she wants to. But ultimately, all of those things that it brought up for me were huge lessons. And so I just want to encourage you guys, because in the moment that I saw her on my dad's mantle and recognized where I had fallen short, it was one of the times where I felt the most crappy about myself, because I realized that for over 10 years, I had done my dad the biggest disservice in the fact that I had such little respect for him that I did not even want or have the desire to know what was happening in his life. I had zero desire. And that made me feel so shitty, because I'd realized where I had fallen short. Coming out of a leadership program that teaches us all about responsibility and taking ownership, I realized that I had literally never, ever once created the space for conversation to take place, for communication to happen, for even her to outreach. The space was not open. I didn't want it. And because I had come at it from that space, she had never thought to outreach. She had never wanted to, because I don't know this for sure, but I can pretty much guarantee you that if she ever once had the thought, oh, I'm going to outreach to Melissa, whether or not she knew it, I would have been like, screw you, biznatch. I would have had nothing to do with that communication. And whether or not she knows that, it kept us in the same space with zero progress for a really long time. Over 10 years. And for somebody that's 29, that's a really long time. And in as shitty as I felt in that moment, realizing my shortcomings, it allowed me to step fully into what was possible. And that's what I want for all of you guys watching. That while all of these things happen to us, and while pain happens, and while recognizing that and having to put a face to the name, and seeing the woman that my dad literally stepped out of relationship with my mom for, you know, to step into relationship with her, all of that was so huge, because I was able to take ownership of so much of it. And what it's allowed me now in this space is to have a relationship with my dad, to ask him how that part of his life is going, to, you know, acknowledge and respect the fact that he's actually married, to just, you know, to acknowledge the fact that there's a whole nother part of him that I was not willing to entertain or not willing to be in communication with. We'd had a very one-sided relationship because it was all I was willing to commit to. And so what's been possible has far exceeded my expectations. What's possible in the relationship with my dad has been beautiful. what's been possible in the growth that my sister and brother have experienced, you know, with the three of us together is camaraderie. It's being siblings. It's supporting each other. And so what's resulted from a moment of true shittiness and a lot of time wasted has been shifted into something that is so incredibly beautiful. And no, I don't have a relationship with Beth. I've only met her once. I get to have a better relationship with her moving forward, but my vision for my family and what I see possible for us is one day, whether that be next year or in 10 years, I'm going to be relentless and vigorous in making it happen. It's to truly be all in the same room at some point and happy and have no resentment and no anger and no frustration. And I know that for my mom, that's probably years away, and that's fine. And for my dad and Beth, that's could be decades away, and that's fine. But what matters is that that's my vision, and I am actively and proactively like making efforts each and every day towards that vision. I am committed to seeing that vision of mine come true, whatever it looks like and however it takes. Whatever stands in my way, I get to be the catalyst of that happening. It's not on my dad, it's not on my mom, it's not on anybody else in my family, but if that's truly my vision and what I see for my family and the potential that I see for us, I get to create that. And so that's what putting a face to the name, and that's what acknowledging the fact that my dad is actually married to another human being that I had resistance to for a solid 10 years plus, has allowed for me. And it's been so amazing. So many lessons I've been able to learn. So much recognition and realization and responsibility. And it's been able to help me to see where I've been falling short in other areas of my life. And it's been able to also allow me the opportunity to help coach my family. Because just last week, and I totally understand where my mom is coming from, she expressed to me disappointment that Beth has never reached out to her and apologized for what's happened. And I asked my mom, I said, Mom, with all due respect, for 10 years I was resistant to communication with her. Have you ever once opened up the space where even if she reached out, you'd be open to it? Because whether or not you realize it, you may be giving the subconscious message that you're not open to a message from her. And that conversation was able to allow my mom to shift too. So what's possible has been beautiful. What has happened so far has been small, but huge at the same time. And I'm just excited to see what comes of it. And so I know a lot of you guys are watching. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for all the hearts, all the comments, and all the love, because I know that this video, I've just been really into it, so I haven't been being mindful of the comments, but I want to see what you guys are saying because so many of you are watching here. Lots of love. Alex, I love you. Thank you for watching. Anna, always sending me so much love. Love you guys. Sorry, my nose is running. I must grab a tissue. I'm back. Alex, your stepmom's name is Beth? Well, what a coincidence. Totally feeling you there. Therese, so powerful, very huge. You of all people, my soul sister, know what a 10-year journey of resistance it has been. And yeah, thank you guys so much for the love. Oh man, that was a hefty musing. I'm not gonna lie, I was like really nervous for that one. My stomach felt a little bit upset leading up to it. I almost had that nervous poop feeling because it's really difficult getting this vulnerable on camera with you guys. But you know that, and you know what my commitment is with Melissa's Musing, and I am 100% dedicated to you and your breakthroughs and achieving everything that it is that you want in this life. Even if that's meeting a stepmom that you've literally never acknowledged in your entire life. So I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching my musing today. I know it was a hefty one, probably long. I don't even know how long I've been going. But thank you for watching. I love all of you so much. I am so appreciative of your support. And honestly, like, you guys and my support system are ultimately what keeps me going. I knew stepping into that dinner with my dad and with his wife, Beth, for the first time, I knew that regardless of what happened, I was going to be okay because of the system and the support and the friends and the family that I've surrounded myself with. I truly know that whatever it is that I want to accomplish in this world, I can do it regardless of what that looks like. So thank you, because I owe that all to you guys. So I love you. Hope you're having a fantastic Wednesday. Sorry, I had to check the calendar. That's what happens when you're an entrepreneur. You have no idea what the F day it is anytime. And tomorrow I'm going to be traveling to the East Coast for my sister's bridal shower. So I will be traveling, but still committed to coming to you guys at least once this weekend. Really want to connect. And maybe I will have a local to New Jersey Friend Friday. So love you guys. Hope you're having a fantastic evening and day. And I will connect with you soon. Thanks for watching.